jolly good.
Oh, excuse me. I have no idea why I did that at all. Oh, sorry. Hello, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Clayton Zoka. Welcome to another My Thoughts On, and today I'm going to be talking about The Little Vampire. Also, tomorrow, excuse me again, is Halloween, and what better way to celebrate it than talk about the little vampire? Yeah. Okay, a little bit of backstory here. The Little Vampire is based on a series of books. Yeah, that's it. I've never read them. I never heard of them until this film came along, I guess. I think it's... Isn't it called like Little Vampire Moves In or something like that? It's by someone named Angela Sommer Bodenberg. I assume it's about a vampire who befriends a human, and the human has to protect the vampire from getting eaten, or I guess in this case, killed. Yeah, that's all I know. So I think the only popular thing related to the book is this film, and there's also a 2017 animated film which I haven't seen. I might review it at some point in the future, but not today. Not this Halloween. Maybe next time. And also, it's actually been 20 years since this film was released. I can't say it. When did it come out? I know it was October, but I don't think it was like today. Oh, it came out on the 13th. Okay. Came out a while. It came out like exactly 20 years ago from what? In like 2 weeks? Bloody hell. Um, I was gonna do another film, but since I haven't seen this in like 4 or 5 years, and since I just kind of want to see if my opinions changed at all. Because when I first saw it, I heard it from, I think it was Blockbuster Buster's review of the film, and I just wanted to watch it for myself. And it was fine. I just remember liking it okay. This is by Icon Entertainment, who distributed this film in the UK. If you don't know who they are, they're the same company that did Thomas and the Magic Railroad, The Magic Pudding. There's one called Fairy Tale: A True Story, Postman Pat the Movie. Oh, so many. Um, Although I don't think their films are great, their family films especially, I do have some very weird respect for them because they are bright and colourful and cheery, but at least they don't. At least they're not the exact same family film. I'll give them that. They are different in a way. Like Thomas and the Magic Railroad, I think is just all right. I know there are people that hail it as like some childhood film. It's one of the first films I do remember watching when I was like a few months old, because the film came out a year after I was born, so I would have been maybe maybe a few months old. I don't know. The Magic Pudding is a bit of a guilty pleasure, but I think it's not that bad. Postman Pat the Movie is a film that I want to dislike, but at the same time, it's not that bad. It's actually kind of okay. The family films are just passable, I guess. I suppose. I've not seen very Fairy Tale: A True Story. I'll probably watch that another time, maybe. So, anyways, Little Vampire. I don't really know that much about it before I watched it, except Jonathan Lipnicki, Jim Carter, Richard E. Grant are in this as well. Yeah, that's it. Um, and some people actually grew up grew up with this film because childhood, I guess, nostalgia. I did look up reviews for it and like ratings. It seems rather mixed, really. It's very split in the middle. People either like it or they don't. What do you expect from a fucking family film with vampires? Okay, let's get into it. So the film is about this young boy named Tom. I was going to say Tommy, but the film also made a joke about mispronouncing the main character's name. It's about a kid named Tony Thompson. He's played by Jonathan Lipnicki, former child star, Jerry McGuire, and frickin' Stuart Little and Like Mike. Yeah. He and his family moved to Scotland because his dad has a job with a man named Lord McAshton. He is there to help them build a golf course. But Tony's been having these dreams about werewolves. What do you think? Vampires. And so one day his dreams come true. He comes across this vampire named Rudolph. I'm not joking. That's actually his name. And also, I'm not going to compare this to the book because, like I said, never read it. Unless someone who knows these books can tell me, then be my guest. But, anyways. He tells them that there's a vampire hunter out there named Rookery, played by Jim Carter, who's out there to find this amulet. This is an amulet where it can help these vampires go from bloodthirsty monsters, even though in the film they only eat cows, to humans. But Rookery wants to send them back to hell. Because he has an amulet, but they have one as well. But he needs both of them so he can do his job, because he's a vampire hunter. And so Tony must help him and his family, along with his father, played by Richard E. Grant as well. And while that's going on, Lord McAshton is having some concerns about whether there are vampires or not, and whether Rookery is a crazy cuckoo. And his mum and dad are kind of a little suspicious also. We've seen this so many times. It's the whole character finds something, whether it's a human, an inhuman, a creature, they befriend it and they have to try and hide it from everyone, including their parents, and then towards the end the parents find out about it and they are no longer mad. It's one of those stories, frickin' How to Train Your Dragon, Iron Giant, there's a film about a seahorse as well, frickin' 5 children. This is like 50, maybe 40% of a lot of family films from like the late 90s, early 2000s. This was like, and even like 2010s and 2000s, genuinely, this is the plot you would see pretty much everywhere. And in here, it's pretty damn obvious you know exactly what's going to happen. So, whatever twists and turns this film has, which is really not that many, and arguably there could be none, because we already know what's going to happen and what the goal is, and even when we find out where the amulet is, it's kind of dumb. And I know you're going to come and say, "Oh, you can't say that. It's a kids' film. You have to spell it out to make them understand." Look, kids' film or not, whatever they have to tell us, it's kind of done. Kids' film or not, if they have the power to tell a story that's right, if it's well told, if it has a good moral, good theme, good pacing, then maybe. But this doesn't care about storytelling. Whatever story it has to tell is kind of convoluted and a bit obvious, really. Unfortunately, it does come down to its pretty cluelessly dull script. And I swear the acting, which I'll get to in a minute, is mostly just these kids just stating the obvious and shouting out phrases like, "Look out, come with me, help me with this. We found you, Mom, Dad." This is the same problem that Thomas and the Magic Railroad had, where most of what the characters say are just random statements, whether it's something to do with the film or just tied into their personalities, even though we do not know that much about them. Same can apply here as well. The humour in the film, while I don't think it's anything knee-slappingly funny, I did get a couple of laughs because this film, if you believe it or not, is set in Scotland. And anything to do with Scotland can give me a good old laugh and chuckle. Why wasn't Billy Connolly and David Tennant? Why didn't they have a? Why didn't they have like a cameo? And I get that this was kind of before Doctor Who, but David Tennant, hell yeah, and Billy Connolly, hell yeah. And the stuff with the one scene in the film that did kind of make me laugh is that the teacher flat out tells Dottie, Tony's mum, that he's been talking about vampires, and then the whole like Tony's mum and dad goes to this like castle party, and then the people in there go silent, and he looks around, and he looks fucking insane when he says it out loud. So the stuff with the people from Scotland, like Lord McAshton, there's like the graveyard owner too. They can get some pretty funny laughs because. Sorry about that. They can get some good laughs because they're just kind of playing themselves, and I can't say for certain they are Scottish. They do sound like it, but they are quite funny and very amusing as well. But every other bit of humour is like it's very slow and not very well written. It just kind of sounds like the actors are just talking and not realising that they're supposed to say a line. And when they say it, with some of them, it just sounds very uninspired and dull. There are a few scenes where we see Rookery catch some vampires, or chase them, I should say, which can be a little bit fun, and it does make the production, which I will also get to in a minute, a lot of fun to watch. When it comes to the backstories of the amulets and the vampires, that's kind of where I thought the film at times felt like a Pride and Prejudice. I'm sorry if I can't pronounce the name right, forgive me, or some like medieval vampire film. The opening is actually kind of cool a little bit, but since the film wants to go with all these wacky shots and angles, it goes for exactly that, and it's fast, and there's lots of bright lights on the screen too. You can't even tell what's going on without having to pause the film as well. So the editing and especially the lighting can make it very bizarre and a bit hard to tell what's going on. When it tries to be emotional, which is very rare, it doesn't really affect anything in the slightest. I'll give it that it doesn't have a third act breakup where the two main characters argue and then they don't become friends until later. I'll give them that, but it's probably because Rudolph and Tony don't have that much chemistry. Besides, one is a very cool, hyperactive kid, and the other one is very shy and, not like the other. That's it. Their personalities are so little that I didn't care that much about them. The third act is kind of where the film gets a little bit fun, I guess. Throughout the first two, it's very painfully run-of-the-mill average kids film stuff. Like, we've seen this before, but it's kind of passable. But the third act is when it's it's a little better. Not by much, but a little. I'm a little mixed here. I can see some very clever stuff here, especially with a vampire hunter and all that. It's kind of a cute idea, I suppose, really. But the storytelling, the theme, also of vampires is a little not what I expected. The humour, the heart, it all feels disingenuous and kind of lackluster in terms of performance-wise, a good script, and even classic clever jokes. It's just, well, I see it more as noise, nothing really, how do I put this, nothing you would see in an animated film at all. But in this case, it's not animated, it's live action. Like, we've seen this so many times that we know what to expect. Hey, even with a dull story, if you add vampires to it, surprisingly, it doesn't make it any better. Hate to tell you the truth, but it's true. Well, depends on what film it is, really. Visuals. Okay, as much as I bash this film for how unfocused and how dull it is, I'll give it that visually it's a pretty good looking film. I wouldn't say it's great from the 2000s, or shall I say exactly 20 years. It looks good. Still looks good. I'll give it credit that the production is actually pretty cool. Like Rookery's truck, the costumes, the lighting, even the CGI is kind of dated and a bit. It looks like something from exactly 20 years, but it's fine. It's very well shot. It's in Scotland, and Scotland's very beautiful, I might add. It's got some nice camera angles, camera moves. Green screen's a bit obvious, but it's not awful. It's competently well made, but it's not amazing. Despite some good costumes, like on Rookery and Rudolph's father, the rest of the vampires look either like vampires, dead Victorian figures, or a goth. Like fricking Gregory and Anna and their mum. They don't look like vampires. They look good, but they look like something else, really. Like I said, Rookery's truck is very cool. I'm very surprised that they've actually used like actual production, because with a truck like that, it looks like it's made out of like bits and like handmade material, and it does, and it looks like a vehicle you can drive. It does look really, really cool. And I like Rookery's design too as well. He does look like the look of a vampire hunter, and his weapons are pretty cool as well. And the CGI, like I said, it's fine. 20 years is not too bad, but you can tell it looks eh. Now and then when it's on the actors, when we see a little bit of Rudolph going from a bat to a vampire, it's a bit off-putting and not in an intentional way. Oh, and the cows too. Oh, okay. The CGI on the cows is fucking dreadful. You can kind of tell it looks like video game graphics or something. It does not look convincing in the slightest. Oh boy, let me tell you. So despite some criticisms, the visual design and how it looks is not bad. For 20 years, it looks good. Despite how slightly dated and really cheap it looks, it has exactly what I expected, and it did give me half of that, in a way. Characters and acting. The only character in the film that was legit enjoyable was Rookery. He's the vampire hunter who wants to do what else? Kill the vampires. And he is actually pretty fun. I mean, granted, he's not a smart villain, since there's this running joke where he thinks Tony's a vampire because, I don't know, because he looks like one, even though he just looks like a freaking kid. And throughout the film, he tries to stop him, but he doesn't. He's not affected by it because he's not a fucking vampire. If he's a smart vampire, then how? This film's dumb. Anyways, he's funny, charming, threatening, but also, again, cool. And provided by a pretty solid performance by Jim Carter, who's actually my favourite. His performance in the film is actually a lot of fun to watch, really. Richard E. Grant is good as always, although not as entertainingly over the top as Vic Van Winkle from Horrid Henry the movie, or Jarvis from Tooth, or frickin', or even Barker's Bitten from Corpse Bride, and the guy from Hitman's Bodyguard. He's not as great in those roles as he. I mean, in here he's good, but not as good as those other roles. he plays it rather straight and rather just kind of strict and pompous, I guess. Tony is just a particularly average kid hero. He's very over the top. He's very enthusiastic. He says random catchphrases, and he's a kid. He's not that interesting. I know you can make kid actors. I mean, the characters they play interesting, but he wasn't interesting, and it's not to Lipnicki's performance. It's just that the character is very bland, basic, and very been there, done that sort of character. Rudolph is kind of the same, really. He's a little interesting, but he's quite boring and very unenthusiastic. His sister is weird as well. The sister is played by Anne Popplewell from Thunderpants. She's weird. She has a crush on Tony, which is not very well established. Kind of like Tony and Rudolph's friendship, which is basically one likes flying and the other wants to look for the stone. But Tony wants to fly because he likes vampires. The writing, I can tell you, is not that good. It's exactly what you think it is. Tony's mum and dad are actually pretty funny. They're more funnier than any other character here. Lord McAshton's... I mean, you could have cut him out. I get that he's supposed to be like the Lord Mayor, and he's the one who's the boss of Bob, who's Tony's dad. However, he does kind of play a bit of a role here where he's convinced that there are no vampires until Rookery shows him a human with a bite in. And then he kind of changes his mind, and then he convinces the parents to kill Tony with the stake to the heart, like with vampires. So the character is kind of confusing. Does he want to be a threatening villain, or does he want to be a nice-looking guy? It's weird. There's also his I guess children as well. He has like two sons as well who are like, oh yeah, he goes to school, by the way. Tony goes to school, and guess what? There are bullies. This is definitely a very generic kids film. And yeah, they're exactly what you think they are. Just forgettable, bland meanies. What more do you want? Frederick's wife, whose name I forgot, who seems rather flirtatious in how she moves and talks, which is a bit strange, really. The acting in the film is a bit mixed. Pros. Jim Carter, like I said, he's really good in the film. He's actually quite funny. He's got full of energy, and he's quite entertaining. Richard E. Grant's good, but nothing amazing. The actors who play Bob and Dottie, who are, again, Tony's parents, they're quite good, and they play it quite naturally, and they're very believable, believe it or not. John Wood, who plays Lord Muck Ashton, he's pretty funny and enjoyable. Actually, most of the acting's quite good, especially the ones from Scotland. They're quite good, not gonna lie. However, for the kid actors like Tony, Jonathan Lipnicki and Rudolph and all those guys, I'm not gonna lie, they are not that good of actors, really. They're... How do I put this? Jonathan Lipnicki's not a bad actor at all. I don't think he's awful. I can see why people don't really like him that much, in a way, I suppose. But yeah, he's not that good here, and I get he's just a kid, but he's not very convincing or believable, at least. He's just a kid. I mean, I've seen him in Stuart Little 1 and 2, not much of it, and like Mike. He seems to be better in those films than here, and I get he's just a kid, but he's very bland, and he's the way he runs, and I'm not being rude to him or anything, but he runs a little bit weirdly, and his dialogue is very kidsy, very simple, I suppose. Ronald Weeks, who is Rudolph, he's fine, he's okay, he doesn't do anything to stand out, he's fine. He's just okay. Alice Cree, who plays Frederick's wife, she's good also, but nothing amazing. Pamela Gidley, who is Dottie, and Tommy Hinkley, who is Bob, they're both pretty good. They're both very, like I said, they're both, not just their characters, but their performances feel believable and very genuine, and they're pretty funny too. Anna Popwell, who is the sister, is also just okay, very, just, he's fine as well, I guess. So, I'm a bit mixed. Some of the characters are pretty entertaining and likable, but the rest are either dull, unimaginative, or just boring. Just straight up boring. But the acting is okay for some, so at least I can give the characters a bit of a pass for being watchable. On a side note, the score by Nigel Clark is very delightful. Granted, it does sound like your average film kiddie score, but it's presentable, it's nice, it's beautiful, but it has its quirky moments. It's a nice score. Well, I've only seen this film once, and now I've seen it. No, I've seen it 3 times now. Yeah, my opinion hasn't really changed all that much. This film is, it's okay, I guess. It's not the worst thing I've seen, but hey, maybe it could have been better. The Little Vampire is nothing more than just a very run-of-the-mill, bland, pretty average kids film. It's got a very uninspired story that's very dully written, and the script is very family film friendly, but not interesting, just boring. Visually, it's really nothing special, with very fake and pretty dated CGI. The characters are very stereotypical and not interesting at all. The acting from some of the kids are very underwhelming, but they're not awful. I'll give credit that the production and the visuals are pretty cool. The acting, especially from Jim Carter and Richard E. Grant, are pretty good. And I like some of the characters, like Rickery and the parents, and sometimes it can be a little bit funny. Just a little. So, yeah. Not a good film at all, but I can't hesitate to say it's bad. I've seen so much worse than this. Rating. I don't remember what rating I gave it last time. Let me have a look. I know it's like a 5 or something, but I don't remember exactly what it was. Bear with me, this won't take long. Oh, excuse me. Oh, here we go. A 5.7. Yeah, I think that sounds about right. A 5.7. Compared to the other family films, this is the worst out of all of them. Again, I don't hate it, but it's honestly not that good. Thomas and the Magic Railroad is slightly better than this, but even I prefer Postman Pat and the Magic Pudding over this. Sorry, Postman Pat the movie. It's not good, not bad. If you've got kids, it's fine for them to watch. Although I hesitate to say this is a family film, and I get that it's supposed to be for kids, but the film's like rated U, like for Universal, and I think in the US it would have been G for general. This film is actually a lot more darker and unfriendly than I imagined. There are some uses of hell at times, and even the character says the word BS. He doesn't say bullshit, but he says BS. And do you remember those like little VC, was it like VSC, like idents where it's on VHSs, and it would say before the film would start, it would say this film is classified U. That means there's nothing inappropriate or anything violent. And clearly a character's corpse with a stake in its heart, and the few uses of hell and frickin' vampires and like pitchforks and even a dead body, that's enough to make it rated U. It's not as mind-bogglingly unfitting as something like Watership Down, but really? I don't know. So yeah, Little Vampire. It's a kid's film, I guess, sort of. So yeah, I thought, I just wanted to get a video out there just in time for Halloween, which is tomorrow. And yeah, I hope you guys have a good Halloween. And what am I doing next for the My Thoughts on series? Well, I've got a couple of films that's still coming out. Debatably, whether it's in cinemas or online is entirely up to the people who distribute the film. Yeah, so look out for that. And what do you think of this film? Did you enjoy it while you were young, or do you think it's a piece of shit? But yeah, let me know below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe. And until next time,